Guys, welcome to Hatchfoot Economics. And it's your girl Connie. And if you haven't done so already, please head right to that button, hit like and subscribe, and get the notification bell so you can get the notifications. So, you know what? I wanted to talk about this article. One of my subscribers was nice enough to link it to me, and I took some time to read it. And I think this is probably one of the most profound um, talks we're going to have about marriage and economics. So I just want to make something really clear. The reason why I talk about marriage and Serena and Drake, of course, it's a fun way to get into the subject, but guys, marriage is really it's really necessary for economics and financial empowerment, financial freedom, all that good stuff. So this is an article from the New York Times, and I just want to go through it with you. The New York Times is actually one of my favorite news publications. Very factual, always fact checked. I even fact checked the sources. So even when I got this article, I know New York Times is 99% of the time they're giving great news. But I still want to take my time to make sure the sources that were cited here were 100% correct. So let's just talk about this. Equality in marriages grows, and so does class divide. Right here, I'm going to scroll down so you guys can see women's salaries as a share of men's among full-time workers. So this line right here, that's straight and black, it represents equal pay. That squiggly line is single men and women. And this squiggly line here is married couples. So just as long as we can see that, okay? All right, so you can see the years down here: 1970, 1975, 1980, 1985, 1990, 1995, 2000, 2010. Okay, so basically, this analysis was compiled using the current population survey from IPUMS.org at the University of Minnesota Population Center. And I actually touched that to make sure this information was correct. It's current population survey data for social, economic, and health research. All right. So when you see marriage data, it's always tied to economics and health. And basically, it's microdata from the monthly U.S. labor force survey, the current population survey, CPS, covering the period from 1962 to the present. Data includes demographic information, rich employee data, program participation, and supplemental data on topics such as fertility, tobacco use, volunteer activities, voter registration, computer and internet use, food security, and more. All right? So I just like to show people where I get the information from. Once again, check the description box. I always link where I get my documents. All right. So basically, you're like, what are we looking at? All right. You're looking at the salaries. Okay. You're looking at salaries of single men and women. You're looking at salaries of married couples. So as I'm scrolling down here, I'm just going to read this to you really quickly. The Don Drapers of the world used to marry their secretaries. Scandalous. Now they marry fellow executives who could very well earn more than they do. All right, so I just want to stop right there. This is why it's really important to understand social economics. People marry who they engage with. People are supposed to marry who's in their circle. So when you see a lot of interracial couples, people get so emotional. People get so triggered. They don't like to talk about it. They're like, it's basic human psychology. You're going to interact. You're going to engage who's around you. This is not me making stuff up. These are facts. All right. With more marriages of equals reflecting deep changes in American families and society at large, the country is becoming more segregated by class. So this is what leaves black women in a quagmire, because black women are double educated. Black women hold most of the degrees, the doctorates, masters, associates, bachelors, you name it, you say it. Black women are dominating the field of education. So this is leaving them without partners, not to already mention that there are 2 million more black women than black men. I'm going to say it again. There are 2 million more. And I think this is a statement that likes to get glazed over. It's not going away. And that's me being generous. Again, I'm not taking away people that are incarcerated. I'm not taking people that are, not employed, who don't have a high school degree. Once I do that, those numbers get really crazy, guys. Those numbers get outrageous. All right. It's the notion of this growing equality between husbands and wives having this paradoxical effect of growing inequality across households. Say Christine Schwartz, a sociologist who studies the topic at University of Wisconsin, Madison. From Cinderella to Kate Middleton, fictional and real life fairy tales have told of women marrying up. But it has long been time since women said they went to college to earn a Ms. degree. In most, all right, in most, do you understand what that means? Right there. But it has been a long time since women said they went to college to earn a Ms. degree. Women are going to college and they're networking. Just listen to the story. In more recent cultural touchstones like The Intern with Anne Hathaway and The Opening Bell, the novel and soon to be Reese Witherspoon movie, the protagonists are highly successful women with husbands who don't work. Spoiler alert, conflict ensues. These changes have been driven by women increasing education and labor force participation, new gender roles, and the rise of what social scientists call assortative mating. So, assortative mating is women and men engaging with people in their circle. And this is why, even when I see black men with white women, I work in the corporate world. I'm in the corporate world. I'm an HR director. This is what I do for a living. I see black men with white women all the time. I'm not shocked because I'm in the corporate environment. I'm the only black person in my department. So, there's not enough of me. And also, just stigma wise, there's not the same stigma as a black man dating a white woman, as a black woman dating a white man. And it shows in the numbers. That's why black women, I think, are only 4% of all interracial relationships out of the black race. 4%. Meanwhile, statistic on average, overall, the past 5 years, I believe black men have been at 15% interracial marriages, but last year there were 25% interracial marriages if you consider other races beyond white. So sometimes they'll marry Puerto Rican, sometimes they'll marry East Indian, sometimes they'll marry an Asian. So, those are not black women, but if you're talking about just white, it's 15. But if you add other races that are not African descent, the number goes much higher. All right, so assortative mating is the idea that people marry people like themselves with similar education and earning potentials and the values and lifestyle that come with them. So this is a really important statement. The biggest qualm in marriage is what? Is what? Money. That's what leads to divorce. And secondly, behind that, it's lifetime ambitions and goals. People don't talk about that stuff, and sometimes things happen. You can draw back from being successful, you can draw back from being ambitious. So it's really important you understand that, people marry people like themselves with similar education and earning potential. So it was common in the early 20th century, dipped in the middle of the century, and sharply risen in recent years, a pattern that roughly mirrors income inequality in the United States, according to research by Robert Mayer, a sociologist at the University of California, Los Angeles. People are now more likely to marry people with similar educational attainment. So this transcends race. Let's say it again. People are now more likely to marry people with similar educational attainment. So this is why I try to tell black men, black women, rainbow purple, get out your feelings. Stop being so emotional. Listen to the facts. And there's people that want to dance around. They want to ignore the 2 million more. They want to ignore the facts. They want to ignore psychologists and sociologists. They want to ignore demographics because they're so emotional. And I get it. But this is what this channel is about. Facts. Facts. All right? Even after controlling for differences between men and women, like the fact that women were less likely to attend college. Even though the typical husband still makes more than his wife, the marital pay gap among opposite sex couples has shrunk significantly in the decades since women started entering the workforce en masse. Today, wives overall make 78% of what their husbands make, according to an upshot analysis of annual survey data from the Census Bureau. That's up from 52% in 1970. So people are getting married. Women are having a closer salary to their husbands. This is an indicator for why white women tend to get married, because they are marrying people in their economic circle. But if you're a black woman and there's no black guys, you are going to stay unmarried. And if you are a black man and there's no black women in your economic circle, you're also going to stay unmarried. So this is just basic facts. This is not me warping stuff around. We talked about the Census Bureau. I love that. That is real facts, okay? In opposite sex marriages in which both spouses work some amount of the time, 29% of wives earn more than their husbands do, up from 23% in 1990 and 18% in the 1980s, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The marriage pay gap varies by education, profession, and class. That's a cute ass dog. That's a dope house. Look at them chairs. Look at the walls. Look at that blue paint. That shit's dope. Look at that lamp. Even the dog is dope. Okay, Colin, get back to it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I get distracted. The marriage pay gap varies by education, profession, and class. Husbands who are dentists have the greatest pay difference with their working wives, who earn 47 cents for every dollar their husbands earn. Generally, generally, couples in which men have high earning white collar jobs have the largest marital pay gap, while men in service jobs like bartending and childcare earn less than their wives. The differences have to do with the nature of the jobs. Hourly workers have a smaller gender gap pay in general. High paying jobs generally have the least flexibility and the longest hours, which means someone has to pick up the slack at home, and families can afford for one spouse to work less. So, this is what I want to say. If you've been listening to this video so far, I know it's not as exciting as the Serena and the Drake mistake, but I want to read this to you again. Just listen to it for 1 second. I hope you're listening to me. Okay, listen to this. These differences have to do with the nature of the jobs. Hourly workers have a smaller gender pay gap in general. High paying jobs generally have the least flexibility, longest hours, which means someone has to pick up the slack at home, and families can afford for one spouse to. So, this is why I'm trying to tell black women, your marriage is not going to work if this kind of dynamic is not there. It doesn't matter if the husband's white, black, purple. You can't have two powerful executives. Somebody has to take the role of mother, stay home. It's too demanding for both people. So let me say here. So what most white women do, and I know this because I've been studying, they go to Ivy League schools. They get these amazing degrees and they show, hey, I'm worthy of your engagement because I'm here getting my MBA. I'm here at Cornell. I'm here at Harvard. I'm here. They're there. So they have the ability to easily go into the business world and command a six-figure salary. It's not that hard. So these men are meeting these women, they're becoming power couples, and they're balancing each other out. The problem is that the black woman doesn't have that balancer. She doesn't have the same option because staying most women want to be the one to stay home and take care of the babies. But in the black dynamic, she's doing the high paying job and she's over 40% of the American household when it comes to black communities. And this is why black marriages have a higher divorce rate per percentage in contrast to white marriages. So the travesty is, even if black women make it to marriage with a black man, the divorce rate is much more higher. And this is why economics matters in marriage. You're talking about me being a lawyer earning 150,000. I want to meet another lawyer so I can fall back. I can be a mother, run the household. It says it right here. which means someone has to pick up the slack at home and families can afford for one spouse to work less. That is the balance. And she's not chilling. She's working. She's a mother, but she's cooking, she's cleaning, she's running her house like a mini business, she's balancing the checkbooks. I watched a documentary on this. She's making sure her child gets into the best preschool in Manhattan. They're going to museums and zoos and trips. She's out there marketing her child, building a name for her child before that sucker can even walk. I saw Poor Little Rich Wives. I'll post it here. It's not a joke. These women are not just sitting home eating bonbons watching Jerry Springer. They are fully engaged and hyper in their child's success. Like they are stomping for their child to get into the best school. So anyway, the marital pay gap still exists in part because women earn less than men in the economy as a whole, making 79 cents for a man's dollar. So this is what I'm trying to tell women overall. It is important who you marry because you're already making less than a man, no matter what. No matter what. So you're not a gold digger if you're looking to raise a family, build legacy, generational wealth, have a secure marriage, have a marriage less vulnerable to divorce. You're a gold digger if you're just looking for money because you want Prada and you want Ferragamo and you want Gucci and you're not even thinking about the future. Why should a man go out there and present himself as a husband if you're not ready to be a wife? But if you are a woman looking to secure your future, your children, so you can be a mother and you can be a wife, that's perfectly fine because the economics, sweetheart, it's against you. It's against a woman. So it makes sense if you're looking for partnership. You're looking for someone who can take that lead role. But you've proven yourself. You've gone to college, you got educated, your degree's hanging on your bedroom wall. That's actually me. And you can go out there and say, okay, I've done this stuff. You could be the Barney to his Fred, you could be his Archie, what I'm saying, to his Betty. You've proven yourself. Because these men don't want to marry uneducated women. You read the top of the article where I read to you. You can read it again. They're marrying their equals, executives. And it's for a reason. They want that satisfaction that their boyfriend or girlfriend has gone through those trials and tribulations and they have that level of intelligence. All right, so let's just finish this article. It reflects the thickness of gender at work and home. Marriage significantly depresses women's earnings, and the arrival of children has an even stronger effect. Men, meanwhile, tend to earn more after having children, and studies show that's because employees see mothers as less committed to work and fathers as doubly committed to be breadwinners. So this is why when I say this stuff, this is why you need to become aware of these facts and these data and these trends in society. Okay, this is social. So you need to understand as a woman, if you are single and you're a single black woman and you got kids, you're going to have a tough time in the corporate world. I can tell you that. As an HR manager, I've had to correct many people who are asking illegal questions while they're interviewing. Do she got kids? Is she married? Do they want to have kids? How old is she? Because they see the burden of a working woman. So that's if you're married. Imagine if you're a black woman who's single with kids. Picture how the corporate world see you. This is about marriage. Just picture how if it's challenging for a white female married to a white male in terms of being stereotyped as not committed and blah blah blah. What do you think is going to happen to a black female who doesn't have that support system, who's not married? It's not a good look, son. It's not a good look. The nature of the marriage itself is changing. It used to be about the division of labor. Men sought homemakers and women sought breadwinners. But as women's roles changed, marriage became more about companionship, according to research by the University of Michigan economists Betsy Stevenson and Justin Wolfers, who also contributes to the upshot. Now people marry others they enjoy spending time with, and that tends to be people like themselves. Husband and wives have different roles in different spheres. So that was the opposite attract view of marriage, Mr. Wolfer said. Today you want people with shared passion, similar interests to you, similar career goals, and similar goals for the kids. Another reason people are finding mates like themselves is that they are marrying later, so they know more about their partners, prospects, and increasingly meet at work. People were least likely to marry those with similar educational backgrounds around the 1950s, according to Mr. Mayer's research, when people married very young. Americans are increasingly able to make their own romantic choices based on their own personal preferences, free from family or religious expectations. So this is why you're seeing a rise of the interracial marriage, mostly on black men right now, to be honest with you. Black women are still lagging behind. We're changing, we're growing, but the data still has us at 40%. Black men have always enjoyed more than double that rate. So let's not get it twisted here. American society has also become more segregated geographically. People tend to live near others with similar education and earnings. Researchers have linked the increase in so called power couples, in which both partners have a college degree, to the fact that educated people are likely to live in big cities, so the people they date tend to be educated too. So this is really important demographics. It's really important. Technology can also play a role. Dating apps, and this is exciting. Dating apps and sites let people filter their potential partners before they even have a conversation. This change is happening internationally too. In 40% of couples in which both partners work, they belong to the same or neighboring income bracket, up from 33% 2 decades ago. According to 2011 data from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which includes 34 countries, two-thirds have the same level of education. Okay? So again, look what type of organization is monitoring marriage. You think they're doing this for fun? Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Guys, marriage is this important. And that's what I'm desperate to tell you. I hope you're listening to this video. I hope if you are, please God, share. This is not a joke anymore. Do black women understand? You are wasting your time if you're going to college and your main goal alongside your education is also not getting a husband. And I'm not trying to say you're nothing without a husband. Obsess, obsess, obsess. White women aren't doing that. They're making sure they're getting their education. They're going to schools. They're making sure they're networking. They're making sure they're getting that degree. They're making sure they're graduating. They're making sure they're not getting pregnant during college and high school. I'm not saying husband, husband, be a husband zombie, be like, husband, I need husband brains. It's not about that. It's about being equal, and the sense that having a husband is just as or even more important than getting that degree. It's the networking, it's the double impact, it's building that union. It's right here, son. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, which includes 34 countries, two-thirds have the same level of education. So you have everything going against you. If you refuse to listen to these facts, I don't know, son. You want to call them devil facts and you want to say it's from the oppressor. I don't know. But if I don't know. But these, all I can do is give you the facts as they are. That's all I can do. All right? So there's a chart right here that shows you medium pay ratio by husband's occupation. And I think it says how much more or less do wives make than their husbands. So a dentist is making mad guap, okay? And she's making almost 60% less than her husband. Chief executives, she's making less, okay? Lawyers and judges, she's making less. You can just see it starts at almost 60%. So a dentist, that looks like about 57% less than her husband who's a dentist, and it goes down, 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 down. Okay, just how much less she makes than her husband. It only equals out when she marries a fast food worker, a chef and a cook, a librarian, maids and housekeepers. She may make more than her husband as a waitress, preschool and kindergarten teacher, a barber and bartenders. Again, if you want to look at this information, be sure to click the description box. I'm going to include all this information via links. All right, so this information was compiled from the community survey from IPUMS, which is ipums.org, at the University of Minnesota Population Center. Marriages in which the woman earns more are less likely to form in the first place, which accounts for 23% of overall declining marriage rate since 1970, according to a large study by the economists Marianne Betrad and Emar Kamenika of the University of Chicago and Jessica Pan of the National University of Singapore. Using census data from 1970 to 2000, they analyzed the choices people made in so-called marriage markets based on age, education, race, and where they lived. All right? When such marriages do form, the women become more likely to seek jobs beneath their potential or stop working entirely, and the marriages are more likely to end in divorce. Paradoxically, wives who earn more or um, significantly more housework and childcare than their husbands do, perhaps to make their husbands feel less threatened, the economist said. So let's read this again. When such marriages do form, the women become more likely to seek jobs beneath their potential or stop working entirely, and the marriages are likely to end in divorce. Okay? Paradoxically, wives who earn more also do significantly more housework and childcare than their husbands do, perhaps to make their husband feel less threatened, the economist said. It's just, this we just right here. He has seen women who were more professionally successful than their husbands compensate by building up their husband's career and playing down their own. So it's kind of a struggle, and this research shows you that assortative mating is closely linked to income inequality. The two have increased in tandem, and people who are married tend to be more advantaged. And on top of that, more advantaged people are marrying people like themselves. So they tend people to be doubly advantaged. So marriage is an advantage. Okay? Researchers say the rise in assortative mating is closely linked to income inequality, which African American people are a big, disproportionate demographic. And that's why I'm trying to tell black women, if you don't try to find someone, even in the range, you're wasting your time, because the rise in assortative mating is closely linked to income inequality. The two have increased in tandem. The sociologist from the University of Wisconsin said people who are married tend to be more advantaged. People who are married tend to be more advantaged. And on top of that, more advantaged people are marrying people like themselves. So these people tend to be doubly advantaged. Marriage is an advantage. It's two minds that are on the same track. Choo choo, going down the track. The events could be more pronounced in future generations. Studies tell us that parents' income and education have an enormous effect on children's opportunity and achievements. And children today are more likely to grow up in homes in which parents are more similar than different. So I hope you guys understand the words similar. They're not talking about if Italian marry Italian or if African marry African. What matters at the end of the day is the economics of it, the numbers of it, the education of it. And if you want to ensure your generational wealth, your legacy, you have to marry someone in that social circle. It's just not, I'm not making it up. You have to marry somebody in that social circle. These marriages are more successful. So I hope you enjoyed this segment. I don't want to keep it too long. I hope it made sense. Again, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification button. Please, please, please. And check the description box for the links. As always, I always try my best to include any and all information that I covered in my video. So this is Hasbro Economics. Thank you for your time.